Welcome to the Panic Room, where we talk about all things panic-inducing. I am the Queen of Panic. Warning, some episodes may contain content that may be disturbing to others. Viewer discretion is advised. Now let the games begin.
Okay, you guys remember the plan, right? Wes said, with a stern look on his face and a ski mask on. Despite the mask, it was obvious that he hadn't slept much. Ironic, considering how much they had to hear him nag over and over about getting plenty of sleep the night before. Yes, Wes, for the 88th time. Gina lures the kid away from his own backyard. From there, we bag him up and tie him up. We keep on our masks at all times, no matter what. We take the old streets to get to Gary and meet you back here by the abandoned stadium. He's not our first victim, so why are you still talking about this instead of getting to work? Travis said, staring daggers at both Wes and Gina. Because this isn't an ordinary kid, and it's not for nothing, Travis. Lately, we've noticed you were getting sloppy, Gina said, as she stood there with her hands gripping the table so hard it looked like she was ready to tear the wooden frame off. Me? Look who's talking. You got too close to that Emily girl from Indianapolis, and now the heat is on us there, Travis yelled, trying to get the heat off of him. Travis was a big guy, probably close to 300 pounds, and yet still able to tower the average man. The group worked as a perfect human trafficking group, capable of blending in and luring their victims to their doom. Wes was a 5'10" man with sleek dark hair and clean shaven. He operated as the brains of the group. Travis was the muscle. Gina was always the lure, and sometimes helped Travis move the most gullible kids into the van, where the kids would never be seen or heard of again. The trio didn't care about who their victims were sold to, just the fat payloads. Gina did have a point about Travis slipping up. A few victims managed to escape, but were never able to get enough of a description to identify them. Something that worked well on their side, but all three of them knew that if it kept going on like this, eventually, they would get caught. Gina had to kill their last victims because of Travis's slip-up. They were twin girls who were targeted for $40,000 each. The trio only went after upper middle class kids or rich kids, but if they were ever in a pinch, homeless kids or poor kids helped to keep them afloat until they could get more expensive targets. Wes yelled at them to shut up and focus as the two of them kept arguing for what felt like an hour, but was only 5 minutes. The fuck is wrong with you two? You guys want to go back to being someone's foot soldier, or can we focus on this big prize? Wes said. They didn't say a word and looked in the opposite directions of each other. I'll take the silence as you're ready to listen. The reason this kid is a big deal is because if we kidnap him, we can make double the payment. The easiest $6 million of our lives, Wes said, frustrated at both of them. Silence filled the nearby empty room as both Gina and Travis refused to look at each other. Guys, look. Someone is willing to pay that for just this kid. After that, how much? Travis said, looking in Wes's direction. Gina also looked at Wes, but only listened. Try $33 million, said Wes with a smug grin on his face. They both looked at Wes, with their jaws practically on the dirty floor of the former stadium office. Wait a minute, so why so much? Said Gina. Yeah, doesn't this sound like a sting operation or something? Surely this is just too good to be true, chimed in Travis, as they both solely focused on Wes. This isn't our usual human trafficking gig. Someone hired us to kidnap the kid, and I already have a buyer willing to purchase the kid after we make the delivery personally, Wes said with his arms crossed. And that's not odd to you? What if it's like Travis said? What if this is just another sting operation? We already lost 3 other members, Wes. I don't want to join them. She looked at Wes, concerned and rightfully so. It was June of last year. Over 300 people went missing thanks to the 6 of them. or at least, what used to be the 6 of them. Someone gave a terrible lead to what was supposed to be a gold mine for all human traffickers. Only it had turned out to be a sting operation. Thankfully, out of the 6, only 3 of the members had gotten caught, but for some reason, they didn't snitch. Not even the DA offered a plea deal, making it impossible for the others to capture Wes, Gina, and Travis. It didn't help that they had lost a very well-hidden hideout just outside of Gary, Indiana. Enough strings pulled and drugs traded gave them a better spot within the stadium, and neither of them wanted to lose such a highly sought-out spot for criminals of all kinds. "This isn't a sting operation. The man is legit," said Wes as he pulled out a silver briefcase. He unlocked it and there was $500,000. Quickly, Wes closed it and put it away. "We get the rest when we kidnap the kid." "Why the hell is this guy paying us this much for a kid?" Travis said. Gina agreed with Travis on this. "Why does it matter? The guy wants this kid to disappear permanently." "Are you fucking serious, Wesley?" Gina shouted in anger. "No one just hires 3 people to kidnap 1 kid, let alone for that much money." Gina continued as she rushed up to Wes. Wes threw up his hands. "I get it, Gina, but if we succeed..." "That is if we succeed, dumbass. This is beginning to feel a lot like when we were getting set up," Gina said, interrupting Wes. "I normally don't agree with Gina, Wes, but she has a really strong case that we won't have if we get caught and sent to prison. We don't have any scapegoats to fall on this time if we get caught," Travis said, crossing his arms. "Guys, you got a choice. One last score and then enjoy the world for ourselves or miss out. Your choice. I'm going whether you guys come or not." Silence echoed in the former management room. The only noise was a few rats scurrying off somewhere. Although the trio made enough money to retire nicely from the people they kidnapped over the years, greed still tugged on their chains, leaving them hungry for the big score. It's what led Gina and Travis to cave in after arguing with Wes over 2.5 hours. Their target would be a young boy, no older than 10, named Cove Hamilton. His family were very well off, with historical investments in both the stock market and the oil industry. Cove's parents did their best to not flash their money too much, especially outside of Fisher's, mostly to protect their own child, Cove. However, Cove's uncle hired Wes and his gang. The motivation behind it was not clear to Wesley, but it wasn't as if Wes was going to turn down that much money to kidnap some kid. As Wes had the gang drive off to execute the plan to kidnap the kid, he started to get a bad feeling. It grew more and more as they approached the school. They were going to try kidnapping him from his home, but there was a neighborhood watch. That, and Gina kept complaining of getting bad vibes, as she put it. His hands gripped the steering wheel tight enough to see the whites of his knuckles. The others would have been able to see it if his hands weren't gloved. Wes and Travis waited at the edge of the school parking lot for Gina. As they waited, Travis asked, "You're not having second thoughts, are ya?" Normally, Wes would have taken it as just teasing, but the feeling that this was a mistake got the better of him. "Shut the fuck up, Travis. Just keep your eyes peeled for Gina and the kid." Wes took a deep breath as he looked in the rearview mirror. "Whatever you say, boss," spoke Travis with a creepy smile. Just then, Wes felt like he lost his breath as he watched Travis literally peel his eyelids with a large combat knife. Wes screamed in horror as he felt a pair of hands grip his arms through the steering wheel as Travis's blood spurred onto the back of his head and neck. As quickly as it all happened, it all disappeared as Travis shook Wesley. "Dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Did you do acid before we got here or what?" said Travis, frustrated by Wesley's behavior. Wes looked around the car and realized that it was all in his head. He had hallucinated the events with Travis as he struggled to keep his head on straight. "What the fuck is taking Gina so long?" Wes said as he began to calm down, trying to change the subject. Wes never did drugs on the job or at all, but today he felt like he wished he had. It would explain the horrors he saw. Travis didn't bother answering. He was too busy forming a story in his head in case Wes messed this up, or if Gina had gotten caught. Minutes later, Gina got into the unidentifiable van with Cove. Immediately, Wes peeled off as Travis immediately went to work in gagging the kid and tying him up without Gina's help. "Anytime you want to help, feel free to jump in, Gina," Travis shouted as he struggled with the boy for a bit. A chloroform-soaked rag finally made it easier to tie the poor kid up. In an instant, Gina seemed to have regained her senses as Travis tossed the kid in the back of the van. "Thanks for your help, Gina. Couldn't have done it without you," Travis remarked sarcastically. What happened?" Gina spoke as she felt her head was splitting from a powerful headache. "What happened is that you two clearly did drugs without yours truly and almost fucked this whole thing up." Travis spoke loudly and angrily. A part of Travis was waiting for his friends to speak up, say anything at all, but they were silent and looked shaken up. "What's gotten into you two?" Travis finally broke the silence after about 5 minutes of waiting for a response. "Wes, something isn't right about this," expressed Gina as she looked like she was still very dizzy. "What are you talking about? We're practically at the home stretch, and now is when you got cold feet?" Travis said angrily. By now, the trio were only 10 minutes away from the former stadium. "Get the fat out of your head and for a moment and listen," Gina shouted angrily. "I don't remember anything after I got out of the van. Not going up to the school, finding the kid, or even getting back in the van. Quit screwing around," Travis said, rolling his eyes. "I'm not screwing around. Everything was dark, a blur from the moment I got out of the van. Look, I don't know what kind of drugs you two did or what kind of game you're playing, but we are not giving up on making a fortune off of this kid." Wes interrupted Gina, who was about to continue to argue with Travis. "The faster we sell the kid, the faster we can forget all of this." "Ha ha ha! Yes!" Travis shouted with laughter. "Wesley, I never doubted you to use common sense for even a second." Gina wasn't impressed. She instead looked out the window and for the last 2 minutes of the drive, contemplating if she would make a break for it. It wasn't until Wes parked the van that Gina began to freak out. She saw everything was on fire outside of the van. She then saw Wes banging on the car door as he begged for her to open the door. He was covered in third-degree burns and was getting blood all over the window. She screamed in fear from this until Wes snapped her out of it. She was visibly shaken and refused to leave the van. Travis grabbed the tied-up child and hauled him over his shoulder as Wes tried to convince Gina to step out of the van. "Gina, listen to me. The buyers will be here in a few hours. Once they take him and give us the cash, we never have to deal with this spooky shit again, okay?" Wes said, trying to give her a peace of mind. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked up at him. "He's going to punish us, Wes, for every sin we committed. Every single one of them." Just then, Travis shouted out for Wes. Gina would be the last one to enter the hidden underground room beneath the former stadium, consistently wishing she was wrong. While there was enough light to maneuver down into the underground, the lights were dimly lit. Despite the trio moving their operations down here for at least a few years by now, not even they knew where the power was coming from, and didn't care either. With a bag over his head, his hands and feet bound together behind his back, Cove was easier to carry around on Travis's shoulder. So, why couldn't Travis get over this feeling that this was, in fact, too easy? It started getting to him, and he tried to plan a way to escape, just in case Wes and Gina planned on turning him in for some kind of plea deal. Travis wasn't the smartest guy in the group, but he definitely knew when to put his guard up. It was how he managed to escape and later meet up with Gina and Wes. What kept nagging him, though, was the fact that it was Wes's plan to betray the other three. The cops were hot on the trail then. It felt like their whole operation would go up in smoke, but none of them wanted to give up on the well of wealth. So Wes pulled his childhood friends to the side and discussed for weeks on how to pin it on the other three members of their group. Tabby would be Gina's lookout, and pull her out of the heat was too much on her, while Thomas and Jessica became the voices in the group's ear. Should anyone give off the slightest hint of being an undercover cop within 20 feet of the targeted kids, it was up to Jessica to contact Tabby, while Thomas contacted Wes. Everything was going fine until Gina pulled the gun out on the twins too early. Because of what Gina had done to her hands, as was Wes's plan. Neither her fingerprints or any of her DNA was even ever on the gun. However, when Tabby grabbed the gun from Gina and accidentally fired the last 2 bullets in the chamber, it was enough evidence for Tabby to take the fall. It was then left to the other 2, who were on the roof, and could have witnessed it all. Had they not had a run-in with the cops, just like Gina, had entered into the plan too early, and had to shoot to kill Thomas and Jessica. The 2 fell off the building as the bullets hit them and took them off balance. Wes and Travis were able to get Gina out of there safely. A video camera on the school property would have helped lock up Gina and give Tabby a lighter sentencing. But the problem was that the twins had wandered off to play in an area of the school where the security camera wasn't finished being installed. Tabby tried to turn in Gina, but sadly, for Tabby anyway, she couldn't provide a good description of her and couldn't give the cops Gina's real name because they all went by code names only. Fate was cruel to Tabby and favored Gina. It would not do the same a second time. They finally arrived in their part of the underground, a huge stadium that looked like it would have been a great place for playing basketball at one point. But now it was dark and dirty. Only one strip of lights worked, something the trio would sometimes discuss about improving, but it never went anywhere since, in Wes's words. "We aren't trying to advertise where we're hiding, kids." With a little work, though, Travis and Wes had the place soundproof and had places to temporarily hold the kids until they could be sold to someone else. There were 2 other kids there that were locked away. The only sound they made was a whimper. They had their will broken months ago, especially after witnessing what happened to kids that did somehow manage to escape. Their constant reminder was the tapes of screaming kids played over and over until they finally agreed to obey them. Little did they know, the screams were just really good fakes created by Gina. She didn't want them screaming all the time, but she didn't want to hurt them either. So she staged it well enough to make it appear that they did, in fact, torture the kids that escaped. When in reality, the kids suffered a broken sense of hope as they ran into people who they thought came to save them. It wasn't. They came to pay for them. Cove Hamilton was thrown into a cage of his own. It wasn't until Travis tied his hands and feet to the cell of the cage that he removed the bag off of Cove's face. Neither Travis nor Wes cared about the kid. To him, he would just be another big bag of cash. However, Gina had a look of concern on her face. There was enough light to see the few deep cuts on Cove's face. "Damn it, Travis, what did you do to him?" Had Gina looked closer, she would have known that the cuts were only showing because of Cove's makeup dripping off of him due to the steam from his breath in the bag. They weren't fresh cuts by any stretch of the word. "What the hell are you going on about?" Travis said, angered by Gina's accusations. Wes was in his own office with the door shut. He was too busy trying to get a hold of the man that had hired him to kidnap his nephew, but there was no answer. Wes figured that he would just call the man later, or pull some strings to have someone else collect the rest of the money for him. It would cost him a fair bit of his half, but he didn't care. For the time being, it was time to check the status of the buyer's arrival. Lighting a cigarette, he leaned in his chair and waited for Greg's shoehorn to pick up. Something grabbed Wesley's attention for a brief moment. A small shadow in the corner of his small office room. What the... Before Wesley could say another word, Greg finally picked up. "Hey, we have him. What time do you think you guys will pick him up? Any way to get here sooner? I know. We just want our money. Okay, fine. We'll see you in 2 hours. Don't be late or else Chris will get here instead." Wesley hung up on Greg. Christian Waller was usually Wesley's backup buyer, but he knew that good old Chris was dealing with the cops on his back door and wouldn't be able to risk getting caught. He was about to check on Travis and Gina when the lights started flickering on and off. The lights then shut off completely. As they shut off, his office door creaked open on its own, then slammed itself shut and locked it, leaving Wesley in a pitch-black room all by himself. Thankfully, Wes had a flashlight in his desk drawer in case of a power outage. He had to feel around for the handle, but eventually found it. As he went to pull it out, something sharp cut his wrist, up his forearm, and stopped just at his elbow. He screamed in pain as he dropped the flashlight, blood oozing from the fresh wound. Wesley then took his shirt off and used it to stop the wound. It was when he was able to stop the bleeding that he felt like he was no longer in the dark. Who the fuck is there? Travis? Gina? Wesley's voice was gradually losing its composure, something Wes vowed to never lose after he had abused Gina. The two of them were out of their minds on drugs that Travis gave them. It was after that night that Gina decided to get clean. Wesley, on the other hand, was struggling to stay clean, often relapsing after making the sale on whoever they had kidnapped that day. "Quit screwing with me!" he yelled at the figure in the dark. The figure didn't move or make a sound, but Wesley knew whatever this humanoid figure was, it had come for him. As the figure took its first step, the lights flickered on and off. The soundproof door made it impossible for Travis and Gina to hear Wesley scream. And even if they did hear him, they couldn't see anything as well. Wesley could make out the figure now. Her average child body was bruised from her arms to her legs. Her hair covered only half her face, even as she swayed back and forth, moving closer to Wesley. He tried everything he could to make Tammy Waters, the victim in one of their other cages, stop moving closer and closer to him. He resorted to cowering in the corner of his office and begging her to leave him alone. The irony made Tammy smile a sickening grin. It wasn't until her grin looked unnaturally huge on her face and her yellow, decaying teeth displayed that Wesley looked at her revealing eye. We have all heard the phrase, "the eyes are the windows to the soul," and yet it wasn't what Wesley saw in the young girl's bloodshot eye. As she revealed a large, sharp glass shard in her hand, Wesley saw hell itself in the poor child's eye. His breath was now trapped in his chest as he recalled the events in the van. The only words that played in his head was, "He is going to punish us, Wes, for every sin we committed. Every single one of them." It caused Wes to try to kick his young attacker, still unable to use his right arm for much of anything. It was his fatal mistake as Tammy used this opportunity to stab him in the calf. As Wes pulled his leg back in pain, she gripped the large shard tightly. Even though it made her bleed, she kept that grin on her face as she stared at Wesley. The wound traveled down his calf and into his Achilles tendon. It made him scream in pain. "Fuck you, you little bitch! Fuck you! I'll fucking kill you!" Wesley said as tears streamed down his face. He struggled with the unbearable pain as he struggled to try with what little strength he had left to knock over one of the shelving units onto her. He wasn't quick enough as Tammy rammed her makeshift weapon deep into his hand. He once again screamed in pain. Tammy ignored his insults, his ramblings, and his plea for mercy as she dug through his drawer and found Gina's birthday gift to Wes. A large hunting knife with a blade made of obsidian and a beautiful wooden handle. On it, it said, "With love, your Jeannie." The lights had been flickering on and off the whole time. However, the lights cut off for 2 seconds, and then lights were on once more. Wesley's eyes looked at every square inch of the room and no longer saw her. It was as if she was never in the room. He took it as his opportunity to try to get the glass shard out of his hand and try to get help. He couldn't get it completely out and just tried to hop his way to the door. He thought enough bangs would get someone's attention. It wasn't until he was just by the door that he heard her footsteps moving closer to him. "Get the fuck away from me! Get away from me, you little—" He was interrupted by the stab to his left leg as Tammy giggled away. She kept stabbing him over and over again, giggling as she did it, like one hears from a mild, humorous joke. She didn't stop. She couldn't stop herself. Her hand felt guided the whole time she kept stabbing him. She heard a boy's voice in her head. "Good job, you're doing so good." It was the equivalent of an older brother praising his younger sister. She didn't stop until Wesley was unidentifiable. She didn't clean her newly found blade or her face. She just got up and walked out the door that was open for her. Tammy didn't look back with her cold, dead eyes, despite walking in Wesley's blood and being soaked in it. She barely made a sound in the now pitch-black hideout. It wasn't until she disappeared from the hellish place and tasted the sweet air that she cried hysterically as she fell to her knees. Meanwhile, before the lights came back on, Travis and Gina looked around. "What the fuck is going on?" Gina shouted in a panic. "Don't get your panties in a bunch. This place is old and run down. Chances are the fuse blew or something. All we have to do is find the fuse box. Right above it is where I keep a few spare fuses. The two of them had been wandering in the dark, trying to look for some sort of light to guide them. In doing so, Travis hadn't realized that his key to the cages were missing. Gina slipped and made a loud enough noise to wake the dead as she landed. She winced in pain. In the darkness, it appeared that she had probably bruised herself and had definitely gotten some scratches. However, as Travis tried helping her to her feet, Gina couldn't help but to yell at him to stop. "Stop, stop, stop! Something's hurting my shoulder blade!" Gina said, trying to keep calm. Travis lit the only light source he had, his lighter. "I can barely see it, but hopefully it didn't stab you too deep. Stay here," Travis said as he tried to help Gina down, gently so as not to worsen the injury. "Fine, just hurry up, please." Travis was thrown off by this for a second. Gina was never the sort of girl to say please. Both Wesley and Travis assumed it was never in her vocabulary, and yet, now, here she was. It gave Travis the sense that Gina was in a lot more pain than she actually was. He was about to make his way to the fuse box when Gina stopped him and gave him her flashlight. "Are you serious? We could have used it the whole time," Travis said angrily. That was until he realized how much blood was on it. "I'm just really scared, Travis, okay?" She spit the blood in her mouth off to the side. Now hurry up, please," she said, as she sobbed into her right hand, unable to use her left. All right, I'm going," Travis said, with annoyance in his tone. He barely moved a few feet when he realized that she didn't even try to argue with him or insult him. A little sympathy grew in him, but he tried to brush it off as he kept making his way to the fuse box. The closer he got to the fuse box, the more he began to feel uneasy. Gina and Travis never really got along, but something was trying to tell him to leave while he had the chance. Between not being sure if her injuries were severe and this odd new feeling of eyes following his every move, Travis's movements started slowing down. He had gotten to the fuse box when he chose the flashlight to his right. There was nothing there but the eerie silence. "Gina, are you still alive over there?" Travis's voice echoed a bit, but no response ever came from Gina. "Just focus on the task at hand," Travis said, as he was scolding himself, the way Wes used to, before he invited Gina into their gang. He replaced the fuses to the fuse boxes and flipped them on. He walked back to Gina, who was now coated in her own blood, with her head tilted forwards. The sight was gruesome to witness. Her entire throat was missing. Something was carved in her once flawless, dark skin. No voice, no choice. That's when her head fell into her lap. Travis immediately took out his pistol and aimed it wildly around the former stadium. "Whoever the fuck you are, come out now!" It was then that Travis saw the two empty cages. The only victim he had left was Cove. "Tammy, Jason, just come out now and slow and we could talk about this. Hell, I might even let you go and just keep the new kid," Travis said as he kept moving around cautiously, never lowering his gun. It's then when I couldn't hold back my giggle anymore. My bonds dropped in my cage. "You'll never find them," I said teasingly. "What the? Oh, it's just you. Just tell me where they ran off to, you little..." The lights cut off, and my cage door creaked open slowly. "Listen, kid, I got a gun, a real gun. I will shoot. I lost that fear a long time ago, Travis Taylor Mays," I said as I walked closer to him. How do you know my name?" His hand shook. The gun still pointed at me. "Because you really are a fucking idiot," I said in Wesley's voice. "Yes, a fat fucking nobody," I spoke in Gina's voice. Travis stumbled back and landed on his ass before firing a shot that just grazed my body. What the fuck? What the fuck are you?" By this point, I was 5 feet from him and his gun. Not that he could see me. The lights turned back on and he fired every round he had into me. "A good effort, Travis," I said before ordering Jason to pierce his hands and feet. Travis screamed, and it was music to my ears. "But you never had a chance at running away from me." I clawed into his stomach and allowed Jason to finish disemboweling him before I left to go find Tammy. I wanted to watch everything she would do to Gregory. before I could return home to torment Cove's family to death. After all, no one can run away from the devil, for my fun has just begun. If you would like to submit your stories, please check out the Panic Within subreddit. I go over those stories that are submitted, and I go ahead and I narrate them. I say go over, but I narrate all of them. So if you are interested in something like that, go ahead and take a look in the description, and you'll find the link there. We also have a Discord. You can come and hang out and get spooky with me and other narrators. We post new content, up-and-coming videos, promotions, and we also just hang out and chat, and you can come and hang out with us there. If you're interested in that, link is also in the description below. And last but not least, if you are interested in doing a collab with the King of Panic or myself, you can absolutely reach out. If you're another creator, you can do one on our channel, we can do one with you. We are completely open for collab as of right now. Looking for new stuff to do and very excited for anybody who reaches out. The best way to do that is through Twitter or Discord. I do check Instagram and I will get back. It just might take a little longer because I'm super bad at that, but I've been trying to be better. So if you do reach out there, even if it takes a couple days, I'll be there. But like I said, we're excited, so please definitely reach out, and we're looking forward to it. And as always, thank you for visiting the Panic Room. You have successfully made it to the next portion of your tour. Please stay tuned for your next prompt. Click the like button and subscribe to receive notifications for when the next portion of your tour is ready to join. Thank you for watching. Don't let the panic drown you.